Welcome back to another episode of Life with Lamb. Today I'm here with Anja. Oh, I should have asked actually how to pronounce your last name.
Rozanic.
Rozanic. Because I was like, is it Rozanic?
It used to be. But
what do you mean it used to be?
well, when my grandpa migrated from Croatia, no one could pronounce Rozanic, so he just ditched the itch and it's Rozanic.
Okay. I'm keeping that in. I love that. I mean, I don't really love that. I feel like we should Rozanic.
Yeah.
We'll keep it. We'll bring it back. I love it. Welcome to the podcast. We obviously work together at the notorious and infamous Lululemon. And you're currently studying a law and eng degree, which we had a laugh about a little bit off air, which is very funny. Won't dive any more deeper into that one. And you recently completed a marathon in Sydney, which is incredible. I think since the time that we've started working together, I've seen you grow in confidence, which has been really awesome to see. I think you've become a really bubbly personality, which didn't really shine through at the start when we first met, if I'm being completely honest. But it's been incredible seeing sort of your journey from like a beginner runner to completing a bloody marathon. Like, incredible journey. I'm so excited to unpack your story, and welcome to the podcast, Anja.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so I guess obviously the preface of the podcast will most likely surround the idea of marathon running and getting into running as well. But I'm keen to unpack sort of the idea of discussing more prevalent conversations about being a person in our 20s, and also like the uni conversations and also mental health. So for the listeners, buckle in, get excited, because we're going to be talking a little bit about that. But Anja, who are you? What do you do?
So I'm 19 years old, so I haven't quite reached my 20s yet.
You're 19?
Yeah.
I thought you were like my age.
No, I'm 19.
Okay, you're 19. Okay,
19.
Incredible.
You wouldn't pick it. Yes, I've just started running really recently, literally 7 months ago. Before that, I did not run. I'll run every 4 months type of vibe. And previously I used to swim, like I wasn't even on land. And yeah, I'm studying at uni, doing law engineering, and that's going. That's how my uni's going. It's going.
I think, yeah, classic. A very common stance on uni and sort of how we're all navigating it. It's going. It's one of those things that, I guess you're set up to sort of just do, and it's pretty expected of you. Is that something that you found?
Yeah, I think I've initially, when I transitioned from high school to uni, I found it very, very hard because, I mean, from high school, I'm going to say I was a high achiever. I did exceptionally well, and I'm really proud of myself for that. But I really struggled from going from high school to uni because I did go into uni with quite a big ego. And I came from a private school and I was humbled a lot starting uni, and I had to adjust a lot with how I learnt. You're not spoon-fed at uni. And I think also friendship-wise, it's a lot to transition from, because at school you're with your people every day for the whole day, and at uni you're on your own schedule, so it can be quite hard and lonely initially. So it was definitely a big adjustment for me, and I'm still adjusting to it now, but I'm starting to get my foot in the door and feel a bit more comfortable.
Absolutely. The juxtaposition between, being spoon-fed at high school and then entering the big wide world of university, and people don't really give a shit if you turn up to tutorials or lectures is, very apparent. I can relate to the ego fact, like definitely graduated with a pretty good score, I would say, and entered one of the, I guess, really top institutions in Melbourne and in Australia. Likewise with yourself, obviously with the law and eng degree, there's obviously some components of hard work and dedication and applying yourself academically to reach that standard. But yeah, uni's a completely different ball game. I'm almost at the end of it. You are obviously experiencing your first year of it as well. First year? Second year of it as well. So yeah, it can be a tough place to navigate. How have you sort of gone about it?
I think sort of at the start of my uni, the first semester, I really didn't care about grades, which was completely opposite to me, because I did spec, I did chem, I did physics in year 12, literally the hardest subjects. And then first semester of uni, I said, I don't care. I'm going to make friends, which I actually thought was probably my best option because in my degree, there was literally 20 people doing law and engineering. It's a rarity. So I really prioritized meeting new people and sort of developing connections, which was the best thing ever because I went to an all-girl private school. You're really exposed to one sort of type of person. I mean, there's some variations, but there's not much diversity at all in regards to any sort of aspect. So I think uni was really, really eye-opening for me, especially learning different sort of perspectives and different beliefs. It was really good. And I think I've developed a lot from year 12. And then I think, as uni's gone on, I have started to put more effort into my grades and definitely care a lot more. But I think, my first year I was really just sort of having fun.
Definitely. But I think it's one of those foundation years where you should make the most of it. So whether it's, joining a university committee or venturing out, talking to more peers in your tutorials and really making that effort. I think a lot of people are seeking for other people to make that effort. So it's really incredible that you're sort of taking the initiative to go out and foster those great connections and great memories as well. I think the narrative that was sold to me from my parents was that uni is like one of the best times of your life and you'll meet lifelong friends and develop really cherishable memories. So I think, making the most of it is an incredible way to go about it. I want to ask as well, so you started 2 years ago. Were we still in that sort of COVID bubble where you were in and out of virtual and online classes? Oh, and in-person classes, sorry?
No, so COVID for me was during year 11 and 12. And I mean, everyone had their own experience during COVID, but for my own story, I really, really struggled a lot, especially mentally. I lost so many friends over COVID because I live in Eltham and my school was in Kew. And with that 5K radius bubble, I couldn't see anyone. I didn't see any of my friends for majority of the lockdowns. And I was besties with my mum and dad. Shout out to them. It was a good time. But I definitely matured a lot in 2 years. So COVID for me was during that year 12 area.
Yeah, it's one of those things where and I hate to bring COVID up, like it's think of the past and everything, but it's one of those things that would have impacted a lot of kids in high school where you weren't part of someone's 5K radius, and in that time that means the world to you because, like you said, you are surrounded by these people who you see every day, and then all of a sudden it's like taken away from you, and then when the sort of, I guess, leniencies came in and you were allowed those 5 kilometer radiuses, you weren't able to be part of it. So that would have been extremely isolating as well. I don't know. Interesting to sort of reflect back on those sort of moments. But I guess like the theme of mental health definitely is apparent with COVID. Can you talk to us a bit about it? Like whether that's from a high schooling perspective or the transition from high school to uni, like how was the mental?
I mean, the mental health in year 11 during that really long one, it was really, really bad for me. And to be honest, it was beneficial for VCE because my coping mechanism was, if I'm sad, I'll just do spesh maths.
Oh my God.
Really weird coping mechanism.
It wouldn't be my go-to, but sure.
It was either that or I binge watch shit on Netflix. But it was usually spesh maths and it was my best subject. So it was good.
It was your best subject?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That is incredible, Anja.
You would never know. But I guess transitioning from in year 12, I really found when the lockdowns eased and we got back to normality, I didn't really have a solid group of friends in year 12. I just felt like during that time, I really lost connections and it was quite hard for me to sort of get back into that. So I felt quite lonely in year 12. I mean, I have some really good friends, but I didn't have a group of solid mates where I felt like I belonged, and they were lovely people, but it just wasn't my crowd.
What's it sorry to jump in. What's it like navigating that? I think I've definitely felt that, and I think a lot of people would definitely have felt that sort of missing piece or that emptiness where it's like I'm hanging out with these people, you know, I get invited to these events and socialize with them, but they're not just quite my people yet. What's it like navigating that feeling, and what does it actually feel like?
It's a lot, especially, yeah, as you said, when you're in year 12, that's your whole world. But I kind of, by the end of it, I kind of just came to a stage where, well, if these people don't really, I mean, value me like how I should be valued, then that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'll find my people eventually. And I think I just really put time and effort into connections that I knew were really true and real. And I think it also, reflecting on it, it makes you really grateful for those friendships. So I think I kind of got to a stage where I really didn't care what other people thought about me. Like, they can talk whatever they want, but I know I try and put my best foot forward, and that's all I can really do.
Absolutely. It ties into the idea of self-love and self-worth because I guess, like the old saying goes, you can't love someone else unless you love yourself for who you are and what you bring to the world. And it's a very hard conversation to navigate, especially when you put so much of your self-worth on the validation from friends and peers and your social groups. Is that something that you came across as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think sort of coming out of year 12, I actually felt really sad because I didn't graduate with a decent group of friends. And that's what you think about when you're like growing up. Oh my God, I'm going to have so many high school friends. And I came out with a handful of people from sort of different groups. But I think ever since finishing year 12, I've developed some really amazing friendships that I love for this day. And I've really attracted people who I want to keep in my life. And I know that they're going to be there for me, you know, through the good and the bad. So I'm glad it all happened at the end of the day.
Incredible. Yeah, high school is one of those things I look back on, and I only keep in touch with probably, a handful of people from high school. And it's one of those things where you're sort of bound together by location and age. And those are sort of the two common things that are common across everyone. Other than that, you have different religions, race, backgrounds, family sort of situations and everything, and just an immense amount of factors that don't necessarily mean that you're going to be the best of friends. But it's like when you're surrounding yourself with them 24/7, well, not 24/7, but like 9 to 3, Monday to Friday, those are the types of people that you start to bring your self-worth towards and everything. So it's a funny thing to navigate, and I think the stepping stone from high school to uni really brings attention to that, like you said before, with the idea that you were at an all-girls school and that's sort of all you're subject to, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, there's a whole caliber of people who might be doing law or eng and going to the uni that you are going to as well. So yeah, it's one of those things. I think you talk about it and people are like, oh yeah, like classic, you know, high school to uni. Yeah, we get it, that it's a hard transition, but I think the ins and outs and the intricacies of it should be spoken about a bit more, especially the friendships and everything. So what was it like navigating uni? You know, you've stepped into this institution. Like, was it something expected of you, or like, did you know you wanted to do law and eng, or was it like, I got a good score, so I might as well just go and do it?
Unfortunately, it's the latter. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I mean, throughout my whole life, I always wanted to do med. I thought that was my calling. And then one day I went to a UCAT session and I was immediately humbled, and I thought, I'm not going to do med. So I thought, I do science, I do maths, I'm going to do engineering. And then I got a really decent ATAR, and I just thought, oh, let's just chuck law in there because I did well. And as soon as I started uni and did law eng, I hated eng so much. I mean, there's no women in it at all. And going from an all-girl school to a degree where it would be literally me and probably 10 other girls against 100 other guys. It was really hard because I personally do like learning in an environment of an all-girls school. So it was a lot to navigate for me, and I felt like I was a fresh kid in year 5 talking to boys because I just wasn't used to that from school. So yeah, I didn't want to do Eng really after the first semester of uni, but on law with the other hand, it was a challenge for me. Because I was a maths and science girl and I'm trying to write essays, and I literally did English language in year 12. I was so not like a writer at all, but I have found that I actually do enjoy it. I mean, it's really hard for me, but I do enjoy it. And yeah, I still don't know what I want to do. I get quite scared about it because I don't know what job I'm going to end up in, and I think there's a lot of pressure, especially on people and kids, where you just, at the end of the day, I just want to make my parents proud. And it's hard to not know your exact direction in life when you feel like you're carrying this pressure of, I want to be successful, I have to do well, but I don't know what I want to do.
Absolutely. It's one of those pressures that it might be verbal from parents, but it's also sometimes in an imagination as well. Like you are imagining this pressure of the need to be successful, the need to be rich and famous and bring successes to your family. I think most of the time it's something that you set aside for yourself to do because, I don't know, it's indescribable really. And I guess this is the preface of the podcast. It's like navigating finding your why, like what is your why? And I think at such a young age, you're literally 19 and thinking back, like I was 18 and in your shoes as well, literally being like, well, I got a good grade. Let's like go to a really good uni and like go tick that box sort of thing and find a job that is going to make me a lot of money. But I think when you venture deeper within, it's like the friends, like you start to uncover a lot more about yourself in terms of career pathways. And uni, yes, it's a great stepping stone for a lot of people to find their why or their purpose, but is it really their actual why and their actual purpose? I don't know. And it's one of those questions that I'm sort of interviewing people like yourself to discover and sort of pick the brains as to like why it might be your why or your passion and everything. But I think it's also okay to take time. Like you're so young, and I'm sure a lot of people tell you that. But you never feel that it will land with you quite that much. Is that something that you're feeling? Yeah. Sorry.
I was talking to my dad about it, and my dad's a 55-year-old man, and I was saying, Dad, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And he said to me, Anja, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And that gave me a lot of, he wouldn't remember the conversation, but that actually provided me a lot of comfort because it just sort of shows that you're always sort of not knowing. And I think my uncle told me, he's a very intelligent, wise man. He said, whatever choice you make, just make it right, which I thought was a really good way to go about it. I think because there's so many choices in life, you don't know what one to go with, but whatever you do, you just have to sort of work with what you've got.
Absolutely. That's so funny, your dad. But you know what? It's those comments and those conversations that you don't think you'd remember, but they really stick with you. And especially at such a young age, that's probably all you want to hear from your parent. It's like they're these people that look after you and they're your role models in life and they look like they've got everything sorted out. But sometimes you need that honest conversation, and they've sort of landed where they have because of the right decisions that they've been making, or sometimes the wrong ones. But it's led them to where they are today. And I think we need to find sort of that comfort of not knowing sort of what that decision is, but let's just make it the right decision at the time and then pivot and be adaptable and agile so that we can make it the right decision in the future. I wanted to touch back on a comment that you made sort of about like the 10 girls versus and against 100 guys. what is it like being, like woman in STEM? Like I know it's such a common catchphrase and everything, but yeah, there is sort of this underlying underrepresentation of women in STEM because it's a very male dominated space. How did it feel, especially coming from an all girls private school?
It was a lot for me to take in. It was fun because I really did find a decent group of blokes who I could be friends with, which was really good. But going into classes, and I mean, a lot of the kids in engineering, love them, but they're all very nerdy, and they've all been coding since they literally came out of the womb. And I'd never done coding, and I'm in this class, and everyone's typing away, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't like to sort of be a pest and ask people for help, which I know you're not a pest, always ask for help, but I just don't. And I just was sitting there being like, oh my God, I'm in this room with blokes. I feel so out of my comfort zone. And because you don't know these people, it was really tough for me to navigate, especially coming from, an all private girl school where they're just talking about sort of feminism, which I love that. But then going into engineering where you're surrounded by guys who you share some things in common with, but you can't have a good old gossip with, or like a mother's group of talking about, oh, what are you wearing to uni ball, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's definitely a lot. And you know what? Whoever's an engineer and a woman, I have so much respect for you for getting through uni.
Well, yeah, because I think I always hear about, how they're trying to get more women into STEM and the need for it as well. And I think diversity is so important. You do need that balance between both genders because they're always going to bring something fresh and new to the board. Have you given much thought as to why women don't enter sort of the STEM pathway or any initiatives that you might have thought of to bring up the participation?
I think this sort of thing takes a really long time to build. I mean, if you were talking 50 years ago, there probably wouldn't have been really any women in STEM, or very minimal compared to nowadays. But I think it just takes time, and as more females do it, there'll be that gender equality. I think the main reason, I found that a lot of people in that sort of the guys there, you would say something and I felt like, I mean, they might not have meant this, but I felt like no one really sort of wanted to hear my perspective, which could be whatever their beliefs they have, but it's because I felt like I wasn't in an environment where I was supported. It was a lot for a fresh 18-year-old to navigate.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're never taught sort of how to navigate being sort of invalidated or not heard as well. It's one of those things you sort of start to learn as you get exposed to more and more of the world, that there are people out there that won't take your opinion or will overrule you and those sorts of things. So yeah, I can imagine how difficult it would be. Stay strong. Keep it up. I think, it's one of those things where, like, if you're passionate about it and want to make a difference, I think what's stopping you, I guess, like, try and pave the pathway that you want in that, I guess, domain. Yeah. How did that impact your sort of mental health and like self-worth as well? Because, you might have felt like imposter syndrome in, I guess, like such a prestigious degree. What was all that like? And how was your mental health during that? I can imagine, the break from private school, all girls, to a very male-dominated space can be very jarring.
Yeah, my first year of uni, a lot of lessons were learnt. I struggled a lot with my mental health, which I guess is sort of why I'm here. Why I'm here today, and it's shaped me a lot. I didn't really have, like, I had some really close friends, but at uni, I felt like I didn't really belong in really either degree, because law is everyone's got massive egos, and it's like, I'm a paralegal at this firm. What firm are you at? And I'm like,
Classic. Yeah. It's like, the big four for commerce.
Yeah,
but
literally.
literally. It's like, what firm are you at sort of thing.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
Imposter syndromes are definitely a real thing in uni. But I definitely struggled with that in the first year. I didn't really feel like I had a purpose. And I mean, you're 18 years old. I think.
Yeah, where's your purpose, Anja? What the hell? No.
Come on. Okay.
But seriously, no, it feels like that because, people are walking around saying, oh, what internships have you got? You know, what firm are you at? You know, what are you doing? What are you going to do in the next, 2 years? Like, what are you going to do at the end of your degree? What are your majors? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on and on and on. And the uni talk and the uni conversation is just... I think it's very cringe. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's
BS.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where people are just projecting their insecurities because there's nothing else there that's telling you that it's okay to not know what you want to do and it's okay to feel lost. But then these people who are feeling lost are finding these pathways and then projecting and saying well, look, I know what I'm gonna do. I found exactly what I want to do and blah 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 blah. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a lot of insecurity bubbling around, in my opinion.
I choose to not engage in those sort of conversations nowadays.
It's not productive.
No.
It's like in real life social media where you're just comparing your LinkedIns with each other in conversation. And it's surely there's more to this conversation than what are you doing and what accolades have you achieved? Yes, by all means, well done to you. That's incredible that you're partaking in that. But it's what do you like to do in your spare time? Who are you as a person? What are your values? Those sorts of things. I'd rather talk about that than what institution you're working at or whether you got ex ATAR or those sorts of things. So yeah. Anyway, sorry, just let myself spill out. But yeah. I don't know where to go from there. I want to sort of dive back into last year. You did mention in the sheet that I normally send out that your mental health, wasn't necessarily the best. We don't have to dive too deep into it if you're not comfortable. But can you just give us a bit of context? And I sort of want to springboard off that into how you got into running.
So at the start of the year, just as uni started, my parents went on a 4-month road trip around Australia, which was so amazing. I love that for them. But that left poor old Anja living by herself in a house with her dog. Love Lily. But I struggled a lot, living completely by myself because my brother, he lives interstate. So it was just me in my house. I was doing my food shopping. I was cooking. I was doing the washing. I was cleaning the house whilst also having 3 jobs.
3 jobs?
Yeah, I had 3 jobs.
Oh, wait, what? That's incredible.
And I was doing a law and engineering degree where I was at uni for 4 days a week. And I felt extremely, I was never diagnosed with depression, but if I went to a doctor, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I was really, really struggling. And because my parents were away, I felt like I didn't really have that safety net anymore. I definitely did. I'd called them 3 times a day, but when you're completely by yourself and you're at home in your bed turning off the lights, knowing that it's just you in this house, it was a lot for me to take in. And I mean, I was already sort of fighting some internal battles. I had some pretty bad experiences happen to me that I would never wish upon anyone to deal with. But dealing with that alone and not telling my parents about anything that was going on, I felt like I was really, really struggling. And I have a coping mechanism of whenever I'd open up to someone, I would then laugh about it because that's how I cope. If I laugh, it's not as big of a deal. But then when I would reach out to people, they would just think I'm joking, oh my God, ha ha ha. But I actually wasn't. I was actually really struggling, but I just could not sort of get my emotions out in a way that a regular person would recognize, oh, she's actually really struggling here. And I did end up going to a GP to try and get a referral to a psychologist. And I remember I told my parents that I was struggling at this stage. And the doctor, she referred me to about 6 psychologists in the area. I called up every single one and it was a 6-month wait. And that news was so shattering, because if you've sort of been in a position where you feel like you have no options and you've just been told that no one can help you, because with mental health, I don't need help in 6 months. I need help right now. And that was really, really hard for me to deal with, because I felt even more alone. And, you know, one day I really just hit my rock bottom, and I'm glad that it happened, but it was so much to deal with by myself and not having your support network with you. But I came out of it a lot stronger, and it's really sad because that was literally a year ago where, you know, I didn't want to be Anja anymore. Like, I did not want to be me at all, to now think that, like, I've grown so much as a person, and
you're doing really well. You're gonna make me cry, man. You're doing really well.
Sorry. That, like, I'm really the happiest that I've been for, like, literally ever since before COVID, because I really did struggle a lot. So I still am processing everything that happened to me last year, because, you know, it's not really something any 18-year-old should go through, especially by themselves. And, you know, especially when it's someone who doesn't like reaching out. It's really, like, not a good sort of
the coping mechanism. Is it? No, you're doing incredible. I'll jump in and save you. Nah, you're literally gonna make me cry. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. And yeah, you can sort of see the hardships that you've gone through, especially now, and it's so fresh in your mind. So yeah, I really do appreciate you sharing and telling your story. Geez, it sounds like I'm finishing the podcast there. It's like, thanks for sharing. But yeah, it's incredibly difficult to navigate and cope with mental health, particularly when the coping is laughing it off. And I think the first thing that jumps to mind is Boy Cried Wolf, where you sort of not lie about these things, but when you laugh it off, people think, oh yeah, it's okay, it's all good. Let's just sweep it under the rug. Anja's fine. When you're not, and that's sort of your outcry for help as well. Is there anything that you'd sort of wish your friends did to recognize the signs a bit more? Or because, you know, you're someone that doesn't really like reaching out, and I think that's very common across a lot of people who do unfortunately face mental health issues. Like, no one ever wants to be put in a vulnerable position or seen as vulnerable or seen as weak. I think weak and that word and that association comes around quite often. But yeah, is there anything that you would have liked during that time?
To be honest, like, my closest friends, they actually really did help me a lot. But I think it's just the people who I was loosely sort of, like, they weren't my best friends. I would tell them about what's happening, and then the conversation would change to something else. So, I mean, no one can really, I thought that I was the only one that could really help me, especially because I was, you know, so alone, and no one fully understands what you're feeling, and they can't. They actually can't. But I think look, my friends actually did a lot for me. I definitely do not want to talk anything bad, because they really, really helped me a lot reflecting on it. But
I think to you, sorry to cut you off, I think to you it would have seemed that when you were laughing it off, they would have brushed it off as well, because that's what you can see, and that those are the things that you grab onto. And I think when you're so far deep into a particular mindset, you sort of grasp onto small moments. So say like your dad saying, oh, like I actually don't know what I'm doing. Like that's what you grasp onto. And so it's those things that, yeah, what do you hold on to? What do you actually take in? What don't you take in? And I think when you're going through mental health issues or depression and anxiety, sometimes you start to flick this switch about like selective hearing even. So it's like, what do you choose to see? What do you choose to hear? And those sorts of things. So that I'm just thinking as well, like those things probably come about.
I remember actually some conversations where I actually wanted to break down in tears because I knew that if I break down in tears, they're actually going to think that there's something wrong. But I don't know the medical terms for any of this, but I physically could not cry. Like, could not cry at all. I would just laugh. And some days I was like, Anja, just break down. Like, don't laugh, break down, because I know you're struggling. Why are you laughing? It got to that sort of stage where I really needed help, and I didn't know. I didn't really know what to do.
What was sort of the turning point where it sort of just changed for the better, I guess? You've been told, look, like there's not going to be a psychologist available for 6 months, and that's sort of like maybe your gateway or your key to breaking free of this problem that's happening. What was the turning point?
Well, after I hit my my rock bottom, I did a lot of self-reflection. And I remember, this was after the whole psychologist, I remember thinking to myself, I can either continue on this path and, potentially not really be around for much longer, or I can do little things every day to make me feel a little bit better. And, thank God I chose that second path, because it's a lot, especially when you're in that position. You really just want to get out and just not have to deal with your issues anymore. But I really did that. I remember this was about September of last year, and I thought to myself, for the rest of the year, I'm just going to think about Anja. I'm going to put myself first. I'm going to look after my own mental health and just try and be happy. And every day I sort of, it was doing something for myself or trying something new. I went on a camping trip by myself.
Really?
Yes.
That's incredible.
It was literally to Sorrento.
Hey, no, we're not laughing at that. No, but like as a fresh 18-year-old, you're still exploring the world and everything. So by all means, no judgment.
Solo camping. It was, I got my Snapchat like a year ago today of the camping trip, and I just thought to myself, God damn, I look so happy. And yeah, I just would do little things to make me happy. And yeah, doing sort of solo dates, as corny as it is, really did sort of provide comfort in being by myself, because at the end of the day, I think that was the stem of my issues. I didn't like being by myself. I would try and surround myself with people 24/7. So it wasn't just Anja. And then when it was Anja, that's when I would, my mental health would be really, really bad. So yeah, really finding comfort in being happy with yourself and being content and that sort of thing really helped me so much.
Absolutely. What's it like going on a solo date? I've seen so many bloody reels about, taking yourself out, like have a coffee by yourself and everything. Does it work?
I think the thing is about being by yourself is you're always going to have more fun when you're with friends. That's how I think. But when you're by yourself, you can really, it helps you appreciate those moments a whole lot more, because you're like, God damn, I wish I could share that experience with someone. But I love solo dates. I still take myself on solo dates, whether it's like a trip to Loverbowl. it's so, it's kind of like, it's kind of sad on you, but even whenever I do get into a relationship, I will always prioritize being fully content in myself, because if you're not content in yourself with your friendships or relationships or whatever it is, you're not going to put your best self forward. And I would never want to be like completely dependent on someone for happiness, because when that goes, what are you left with? Yourself.
She's 19. Can you fucking believe it? I love it. I love it so much. Let's talk about running.
Yes.
I love it so much. I think we can, I was thinking before the podcast, I was like, is this just going to be like a beginner to marathon sort of podcast? But it's been an incredible chat about mental health and sort of your upbringing and how you've sort of navigated the different sort of spanners that have been thrown into your works. But when did running come into the picture? And I guess let's talk about the timeline till now.
So, at the start of the year, my brother, he was actually training up for a half marathon, and he was down in Melbourne for the weekend, and he goes, Anja, let's go on an easy 5K. And I remember thinking, oh, Ethan, I got this in the bag. Got this, so I'm going to annihilate you. And I go on this 5K run, and I get 3K into it, and I dead set. My heart is beating out of my chest, and I was so humbled, like so humbled, because I did not realize how unfit I was. But after that run, it provided me so much mental clarity that I was really sort of looking for coming out of the previous year. And I said to Ethan, I was like, I'm going to train up for a half marathon. So I literally did. I just went full into the running. Like, I signed up for the half marathon. I set my plan up and I just started running. It's kind of crazy to how much I flicked the switch, because I tried to start running so many times before, like so many times before, but I just never really stuck to it. You do it for a week and then it's like, oh, I've had enough.
What was the reason? Was it because you had that end goal of I'm doing a half marathon? Is that what contributed to it?
I think so. I'm definitely a person who needs to have some sort of tangible goal. And I think setting that really, really helped, because you're working towards something. You're not just sort of
like, I'm just going to start running. Yeah, literally. No, I love that. SMART goals, everybody. Oh, God. I'm not going to even go through the acronym. I can't even remember it. Wait, what is it? Specific, measurable,
attainable,
targeted,
smart.
Or time bound.
Oh, yeah.
Smart. Wait, sorry. Oh, my God.
Reasonable? I don't know.
Reasonable. I don't know, something like that. I always get stumbled by the R, but then I just went straight to time bound. I love it so much. Yeah, incredible. So yeah, it's great that your brother sort of influenced your decision to start running. Now, I guess like, let's paint the picture. You've started at 3K and you're like dying. Yeah. And then you've gone to Sydney and ran your first marathon. What's the time span between those two runs?
7. Oh. What's the month of 9 months?
9 months.
9 months, because
incredible.
Sydney was September. Yeah. I did not, if you told me I was going to run a marathon this year, I wouldn't have even laughed. I would have just been like, yeah, cool joke. Cool joke, mate. But there's so much time in between there that I, even sort of whenever I like sort of post my content, I never want to say I just woke up one day and ran a marathon, because I trained exceptionally hard. Leading up to the half, I was running 5 times a week and I never missed a single session ever. And I think having that sort of mentality really helps me, where it's not even I'm not even questioning, oh, am I going to go for a run today? It's the run's happening. It's just get it done. There's no option. Get it done.
Brilliant.
I mean, obviously if you're injured, relax. But I didn't
get
injured.
Are you on the Goggins train?
Yeah. I actually had, when I was leading up to the marathon, my screensaver was, what would Goggins do? Which was really cringe, because people would be out, I'd be at a bar and people were like, what are you going on about?
What would Goggins do? Chug like 10 shots. It would be great. No, that's brilliant. Oh my God. So literally a 9-month span, and you've added, what's the math? 39 Ks.
Yeah, but it's not even my pace was faster in the marathon. My heart rate would have been lower. Like, I mean, I never run for physical benefits. I mean, it's great to feel more confident in your skin, but I've never run to sort of attain a certain body standard or whatever it is.
On that note, actually, I know a lot of people like get into fitness because they're like, I want to look better and everything. But I think you just feel more comfortable in your skin because you're actually putting in the work for yourself as well. So say with like powerlifting for myself, because I'm not a runner. I don't know, maybe I'll hop on the running era bandwagon. I feel like everyone is in their running era at the moment. Anyway, but you feel just like more confident in your skin, whether you look good or better. It's more like you're actually taking time to invest into yourself. So you could consider like your runs a solo date, or like my training sessions a solo date, essentially. But yeah.
I think also because I mean, most people have struggled with their body image or whatever. And previously, whenever I would start a fitness challenge, it was to lose X amount of kilos or look like this. But when I started running, I never even measured myself or weighed myself. It was, I want to complete a half marathon. And I think I've really learned having performance goals over I want to lose X amount of kilos, for me personally, works 10 times better, because inevitably you're going to get fitter if you're running or if you're doing whatever it is. It's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Performance metrics, very, very good. Something that you can put sort of like a number to that isn't weight. I think weight fluctuates a lot, especially in women.
Females,
yeah, literally, it fluctuates so much because of your periods and hormonal changes. And like muscle weighs 2 times more than fat. So it's just like if you're working out in the gym as a woman, and I know a lot of females attribute their self-worth to like the weight on the scales, like my girlfriend does it as well. It's like, no, like you're getting stronger and you're getting fitter, but it's like the muscle that's the weight. It's not like you being fat.
Literally. Please
don't think that at all. Like no, it's just like one of those things I'm just like, no, please, like don't think that at all. And anyway, that's another conversation. I want to get into some questions actually, because I feel like this will relate to this segment and maybe kickstart a few like pointers. Beginner to marathon, love it. Kyle, your mate.
Oh, love him.
Yeah, shout out Kyle. He asked, did you ever struggle with running by yourself at the start? And I think this is like pretty relevant to the idea that your parents left, and that's what sort of put you in the mental health or like in a poor mental health stance or period, I guess. What was that all like?
Well, for majority of my running, so from the start of the year to about, what's the month? August, I was always running by myself. And I definitely did struggle some days, but at the end of the day, whenever I would run, I'd feel way better. So it's just getting your foot out the door. Once your runners are on, that's literally the hardest part, because once you're outside, you're not going to start your run and then say, oh yeah, no, like, yeah, I definitely did struggle, but I think relying on discipline really helped me a lot, and not running when I'm motivated.
Absolutely. There's so much happening about, or so much conversation and narrative surrounding discipline versus motivation. Motivation sort of like gets you out the door once, but it's not something that's reoccurring, and you can't rely on motivation to be your sole source of why you're doing something. Whereas discipline, you make it a routine, there's non-negotiables set in place, then you're going to keep showing up and eventually you'll get better, even if it's a shit day as well. What are some tips actually, or what are some ways to get around sort of the struggle of running by yourself?
Having a good playlist. I have some really good running playlists, so just Anja Rozanic on Spotify.
I'll put that in the show notes, I reckon. Get around it.
Actually, I'll get back to that question, but just quickly, what I would do is for my half marathon, I actually made a playlist that started off, my first song was Sweet Disposition, which is quite a somber, like magical, euphoric song, and then
Absolutely.
you build into the marathon and it becomes like more techno heavy and more like doof doof.
I literally did a subject at uni. It's called Music and Health. Anyone at uni mob, do it. It's like free wham booster. I know people are always after wham boosters, but you seriously had to make like a 10-song playlist and describe it to like the activity that you were doing. So it could have been, I guess 10 songs would probably be about 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say like, oh, my 30-minute run. And then you look at the science behind the beats per minute and like how that's going to affect the brain, whether lyrics are going to impact you as well. So I did like one for gym, and I think music is very beneficial when you can tailor it in those sorts of ways to attribute it to your training. Like that mental shift between the euphoric, like, oh, we're easing into it, to like, okay, this is like grind time sort of thing. Let's put some more hard stuff on. So incredible.
Literally. But yeah, some tips for running by yourself is I'd also listen to some podcasts, but I've also started to run without music, which is very controversial, but it's kind of like meditation, which I wouldn't really recommend this if you're just trying to start running, because when you want to start running, you really want to be sort of fueling your motivation. So definitely listen to music. But as you get further along the track, I think running without music is really, really good, because when you've got things in your ears, you're not really thinking, you're just listening to the songs. But then when you run with no music, you actually get to think, get to reflect, bit of meditation, think some wacky thoughts, try and solve world hunger. I don't know. Like you literally, I think about the roguest things ever. But yeah, I think podcasts and good playlists is like the best sort of thing.
No, absolutely. I think as much as I, talk about sort of tailoring the music, there is also studies about, and actually my coach even says like sometimes don't train with headphones. Like with deadlifts, say for powerlifting, you sometimes have to be really dialed in. So you play like a really good song and then you're like deadlifting to that song. But say for comp day, you're not going to actually have those headphones on. You have to take them off. So you have to get used to being able to dial in without the music that you're used to as well. So it's a very good way, and a good way to mix it up as well. Because sometimes you want to be really present with sort of your own thoughts, but then sometimes like you just need to get through it as well. So that's when you bring in the music. So yeah, incredible. Sammy asked, how did you stay motivated at the start with running? I know you touched on sort of having that end goal, but was there anything that sort of ticked you on?
I think surrounding yourself with like-minded people really, really helps. Whether they're runners or not, people who can sort of are going to ask you, oh, how's your running going? That sort of environment really helped me with motivation. Join a run club. Shout out to RTV.
Run the Burbs.
Run the Burbs. Yeah, like ever since I've ran with Run the Burbs, you're with this group of people who we literally only speak about running. So you really can, it's good because the people who don't run in your life probably get so annoyed with you just constantly talking about running, which is so valid. But yeah, I think surrounding yourself with like-minded people, whether they are runners or they're just, talk about their own fitness goals, is really beneficial because it just keeps you accountable. I think that's one thing that I did. I was really public with like my running. I was super duper public with it. So I think that helped me with, I can't pull out. Like.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's like setting those, non-negotiables and being really public about it. There's like always two sides to a story. I'm seeing things like, yes, you should post all about like your goals and achievements and everything that you're doing, which is incredible. And it's the pathway that you've gone down. But then I'm seeing things like you shouldn't post it. You should keep quiet about it and then celebrate after. So yeah, it's interesting discussion. But obviously that pathway of posting things, especially on TikTok, you've been popping off, have really sort of set the standard and set the tone for yourself. So incredible. And we'll get into content creation in a little bit. Cal asked, what were the major setbacks you faced during training for your marathon?
I actually never got injured. I don't want to be that person.
So good.
I actually never. I think I'm just built different people. No, I've never been injured in my whole entire life. Like, I think if someone else did what I did, they'd actually would get injured. I did not strength train, which don't recommend.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't. I didn't lift a single weight, which was really, really, really silly because it got me in the end.
Okay.
I copped it. I didn't really have any setbacks. Obviously, during the actual marathon, there were setbacks, but leading up to it, I don't want to be that person, but there was none.
Yeah, brilliant. Carly, she's got 2 questions. So the first one is, what's your go-to pre-run and post-run foods?
Ooh, pre-run. Sometimes I don't eat before, which is so silly.
But I feel like, well, the times that I can count on my hand that I've run, like, I don't like running on an empty stomach. I don't know if that's... Oh, no, on a full stomach. Sorry.
Well, if I'm running... I agree. If I'm running more than 20 Ks or 15 Ks, I always try and eat before because otherwise you just hit a wall.
Yep.
So usually beforehand, it's a bagel, a peanut butter bagel. I love my bagels. Or like a banana with peanut butter on anything really.
Essential fats, I love it. And
post-run. Post-run is a bagel.
A bagel as well? Not Lovable? I feel like Lovable would be...
No, I literally have at least one bagel a day. It's really really, really bad. But
right, have you gone to Bizzle B?
No, I only go to Whiplash because I'm also a Collingwood fan. So
okay,
I hit up the Whiplash for the bagels.
I see. Well, Bizzle B, very good location if anyone wants to check it out. Carly has also asked, what has the progression journey been like? For example, did you set short-term goals? I think we touched on that a little bit. You signed up for the half marathon. You're like, I'm doing it. But yeah, were there sort of many checklists that you had or things that you did to keep yourself sort of in line and ritualized to the half marathon/mara?
I think my training for the half marathon and the marathon was very different. For the marathon, I use this app called Runner, which is seriously, if you want to train up for anything from a 5K to a 100K ultra marathon, they've got a plan for you. But it's a paid app, but they give you a very specific training plan and they give you actual paces, and every day your run pops up on your phone as a notification. So that really helped me. In terms of sort of short-term goals, I just really enjoy running. Like, I actually really, really enjoy running. And after my marathon, I think I had 4 days off and I was just itching to run. I was like, oh, like I can't wait to run because I just love it so much. And I hope this stays like this because it's the best feeling ever.
Can you describe it?
Oh, it's just, I mean, it's changed. My running journey's changed so much that from at the start of the year, I was really by myself, but now I've got this sort of really decent group of running friends that I can't wait to catch up with them and run, or it's like, oh, I can't wait for my cappuccino after my run. Like, it's just the clarity that running provides me, and I want to get better. I mean, I'm so not a fast runner. I'm no Kipchoge or anything like that, but just trying to work on yourself in one aspect of your life is really, really the best.
Absolutely. It's so important to set aside that time and the space to do so as well, whether that's, physical sort of outlet or like an academic outlet as well. I think it's always great to be working on yourself and striving for a better purpose. I'm really liking the analogy that you're never going to be like that higher self of your version, but that's the thing that should excite you. The thing or the gap between you right now and you and your higher self, it should always be moving, and then you're always chasing it. I love that analogy so much. Like, and I try to bring it up in each conversation as well. It's something that's just stuck with me. So I love that about your running and everything. And I think as we sort of look over your journey as well, I guess like felt relatively connected in high school with the private school bunch, and then graduated and let go of a few of them, and because you didn't really feel that connected, and then went into uni and you were like, oh my God, like I'm not connected at all, but still tried to venture out. And then now you've sort of stumbled across your people, the people that really bring you happiness and excitement for that part of your week where you're like, I'm looking forward to that cappuccino and everything. Do you have any sort of tips for discovering your people? I think it's a question that a lot of people pose to themselves. It's like, am I actually hanging out with the right people? Like, are these people actually benefiting in my life?
It's a lot to navigate, and I think it's something that you shouldn't put pressure on yourself for, because I don't want to say it, but your time will come. But for me, especially in, coming from high school or just any friendships in my life, I kind of reflect on it and say, am I being who I want to be around these people? Are they bringing out the best of me, or are they bringing out the not so good parts about me? And also just sort of trying new things. I mean, I didn't do running because I knew this was going to be my outcome. It was just, let's just give this a go and see what happens. So I think really taking that first step can open a door, or it can't. Like, I just try it.
And I think it relates back to the quote that your uncle had, I guess, like about the decision making and making it the right decision. It's like, I don't know if this is the right decision, but let's just go with it. Let's just start posting some content, set a goal for myself, and really just run with it. Oh God, no pun intended. Let's just go with it, sort of thing. Which is incredible, and I love sort of the outcome and how happy you've become as a person. I think I mentioned at the start, I can definitely see from where you were to where you are now, like you're exuding this confidence and this happiness, which is incredible. I love it so much. We've got sort of one last question, and this one's from Sandy. She asked 3 keys to preparing for a marathon that are non-negotiable.
My marathon day, I made so many mistakes. Non-negotiable. Don't do what I did.
What did you do?
Okay. The day before my marathon, I was with my brother and we're in Manly. So we had fish and chips for lunch. I was so full. Like, I really enjoyed that. And then by the time it hit dinner the night before, I was still full. But Ethan's like, no, you need to eat before. Let's go to GYG. Let's get a burrito with beans. And I wake up. No. So silly, because I wake up on marathon day. My stomach's in all sorts of pain, and I was still full. So I didn't eat before my marathon, which was so silly, because then I had gels on top of an empty stomach. And I mean, my marathon, I experienced excruciating pain, but the stomach pain was probably number 1.
No way. That is so funny. Oh my gosh.
Eat before your marathon. That's definitely a non-negotiable.
But nothing that's going to
bloat you or cause any sort of bowel issues.
So what would you have eaten instead? Because I feel like fish and chips, like a bit high in fat.
Yeah.
You do have carbs and like, I guess, a bit of protein from the fish. Then GYG's is pretty good except for the beans.
I think I've heard that rice is a really good carb source. Like, it's better than pasta.
Oh, better than pasta.
Oh, that's just what I've heard.
Shout out Asians. Let's go.
I've just heard that through the grapevine, that's really good on the stomach and it's quite light. But you should really be carb loading 3 days before your marathon, not the day before your marathon.
I have heard that, where it does actually take a little while for the carbs to actually start to come in place as well. So yeah, I think before you run, you should have like quick digesting carbs. So maybe like some lollies and those sorts of things. I don't know if that's
banana or high sugar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Those things that your body will like take in sort of instantaneously compared to your sort of slower digesting carbs. So like things like oats, rice and pasta. Yeah.
I think another tip that really helped me through my running is getting decent socks. No one talks about socks enough. The Lululemon Power Stride socks, this is work related. They are so good because you don't get blisters. I lost toenails at the start of my half marathon training. Yeah, RIP. I'm never going. I didn't go to get my toes done for ages because I was so embarrassed.
Rip
the toes.
rip the toenails. Far out.
But yeah, getting good socks for running is seriously not talked about enough, because having a blister is like the most painful thing ever.
I can imagine. Oh, I just don't want to think about it.
No.
Shout out Lulu.
Shout out.
Power Stride socks come in store. You might see the both of us.
Yes,
So
yes.
There we go. I don't know if we can promote like that, but anyway, we'll just go ahead with it. I love it. So eating good before.
Yep.
Socks.
Final tip is, I mean, obviously you're training. That's you want to be really well prepared. But I think the day of marathon, what's another tip? Hydration is super duper important, and especially having salts the night before and the morning of, because these things called electrolytes. If you don't, I don't know the science. I know the rough science. If you don't have enough electrolytes, then you cramp a lot. And I had the worst. I mean, you get cramping in your marathon no matter what, I think. But I had the worst cramping of my whole entire life. Like at 30K, I could not even lift up my legs because I was in that much pain. And yeah, electrolytes really important. And another thing, just one more thing about the marathon, is I went in with a time goal. I wanted to get under 4 hours. And towards the end of the marathon, I went out way too fast and then it cooked me. But towards the end of the marathon, I knew that I wasn't going to hit that time because I just felt myself dying. And I saw so many people just passing out on the floor. People were having like oxygen masks on them. It was genuine.
It was a very hot weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 30 degrees, and it was it was a genuine sight to see, because you literally saw ambulances driving to pick these people up, and it kind of I hit a moment where I was like, I don't really care if I don't get under sub 4 hours. I just want to get it done. I'll be happy if I survive. So I think you sort of reach this goal where at the end of the day, whatever your time goal is, you have to be goddamn proud of yourself for running 42K, because that is an achievement in itself.
Absolutely. So would you say sort of not like don't set goals, but be a bit more realistic about it, or just be proud of the fact that you've gone through and done it?
I mean, especially for your first marathon, I think you can have a goal, but I think just crossing the line is a goal in itself. I just sort of developed an ego when I was like, oh, I can do this. But yeah, at the end of the day, the whole time I just wanted to finish. And also, it's okay to walk during a marathon because there were some walking breaks.
It's all good. It's 42 Ks, man. It's actually incredible. Anja, it's been incredible listening to your story. I think, yeah, I'm so appreciative of you sharing a bit of an insight into just how far you've come, particularly with the mental health stance and the point that you were at, the lows that you had to face, and sort of navigating all the way back up to now reaching this sort of runner's high, completing your first marathon, and yeah, just sharing some insight. I think it's incredible. I think it's there's a bit more merit and weight to having someone who is like your gen pop, essentially. Like you couldn't run 3Ks, so now running a marathon. There's just a bit more weight behind, I guess, the information that you've provided. So thank you very much for sharing. I'm sure a lot of listeners who are maybe hoping to hop into their runner's era are going to latch onto that and really take that advice. And oh my God, I'm gonna make so many puns, like taking it in their stride, as we might say. Oh my God, I'm so bad. It's not good. No, thank you so much for sharing. And especially the conversation about navigating the high school to uni gap as well. I think the idea of that is not talked about enough. So thank you for sharing. What's next for you? What have you got planned?
Next is obviously I'm getting this semester of uni done, but then uni break happens and I haven't officially booked myself in for a half marathon, but I am training up for a faster half marathon. I'm doing the Beyond Blue one, which is December 3rd. And
that's soon.
Yeah, I'm 8 weeks of training. But I've already I can run half marathons now.
I've done a marathon. I can do a half marathon.
Yeah, so I'm training up for that. And then I guess I really do want to sort of develop more into my content creation. I've really enjoyed that this year. So I think that's sort of next on the cards.
I love it. With Life with Lamb, just to butt in, I finish uni very soon as well. It's just like, yeah, woo, let's go. But one of the things I want to implement with Life with Lamb is having just a single topic to talk about. So if you want to come on and talk about content creation, by all means.
Love to.
I'll probably rebrand the Shearings aspect. Shearings used to be a snippet of the main podcast, but I definitely want to make Small Hearings is the breakdown of it. A little bit about like one topic and just sort of like a 10, 15, 20-minute conversation about it. So that's what's in store for you guys. But where can people find you to support you on your content creation journey?
Instagram's just Anja Rozanic, and then TikTok, which is where I'm more active about the running, is Anja_Rozanic, I believe.
Yeah, I think you'd like never know what your TikTok name is. It's one of those things you're just like, this will go.
Just search up Anja. I'm probably the only one.
Okay, jeez.
No, there's not many Anjas out in the world.
Fair enough. No, it's been incredible listening to your journey. Be sure to follow at Life with Lamb podcast, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Yo.